The big meeting room on Nexus Station was full of scared aliens. They sat in their special chairs and talked in worried voices. Some had 4 arms. Others looked like floating clouds. A few had scales that changed colors when they were upset. Ambassador Kethvar stood up slowly. His 4 arms shook as he walked to the front of the room. He was from a planet far away called Altania. Today he had very bad news to share. The monster has attacked 3 more worlds, he said. His voice came through a machine that helped everyone understand him. The thing we call the Warbeast cannot be stopped. Our best weapons do nothing to it. Our mind readers run away when they see it. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the back of the room. He was a human from Earth. Jake was 35 years old and had seen many scary things in space. But the pictures on the big screen made even him feel sick. The Warbeast was huge. It stood as tall as a building. Its skin looked like broken glass that sparkled in the light. Long arms came out of its body like ropes. These arms could smash anything they touched. 16 different kinds of people have tried to kill it, Kethvar went on. All of them failed. The beast gets stronger every time someone fights it. It learns how to beat us. An old alien named Elder Zix spoke next. She looked like a ghost made of light. Our best machines tell us the creature is not normal. Part of it lives in a place we cannot see or touch. We cannot trap it. The room got very loud. Every alien started talking at once. They all had stories about how the Warbeast had beaten them. The Krillian Empire had weapons that could break planets. The beast just walked through them. The Vorthan people could bend reality itself. The beast turned their power against them. Even the mystery people called architects ran away after seeing it once. Captain Morrison stood up. He raised his hand to ask for permission to speak. The room went quiet. All the aliens looked at the human who wanted to talk. We want to try, Jake said in a calm voice. The room exploded with noise. Aliens laughed, clicked, buzzed, and made music. They could not believe what they heard. Humans have only been in space for 20 years, said Commander Veltoth. He was a big alien with sharp teeth. Your people do not have good weapons. You cannot read minds like we can. You are too weak for this job. Jake smiled, but his eyes stayed serious. Maybe being weak is what we need. The aliens stopped laughing. They looked confused. Think about it, Jake said. You all tried to fight the beast with your best weapons. You all failed. Maybe the answer is not to fight at all. What do you mean? Asked Elder Zix. I mean, maybe the Warbeast is not really a monster. Maybe it is something else. Something that got lost or scared. The aliens made sounds of disbelief. Some clicked their tongues. Others buzzed like angry bees. That thing has destroyed whole cities, Kethvar said. It has killed millions of people. How can you say it is just lost? Jake thought for a moment. On my world, we have animals that can be very dangerous when they are scared. Bears, tigers, even dogs. But sometimes, if you approach them the right way, you can calm them down. The Warbeast is not an animal, Commander Veltoth growled. How do you know? Jake asked. Has anyone tried to talk to it? Has anyone tried to understand what it wants? The room went quiet again. The aliens looked at each other with strange expressions. You cannot talk to something that has no mind, Elder Zix said softly. Who says it has no mind? Jake replied. Maybe it has a very different kind of mind. Maybe we just do not know how to listen to it. An alien with blue skin and 6 eyes spoke up. The beast shows no signs of intelligence. It only destroys. Jake shook his head. The reports I read say something different. The beast does not attack randomly. It always goes for the mining equipment first. Then it attacks the power plants. Then the communication towers. That sounds like a plan to me. The aliens started talking to each other in worried voices. They had not thought about this before. Even if you are right, Kethvar said, how would you talk to such a creature? Our best language experts cannot understand it. We have some ideas, Jake said, but we need to try. What do you have to lose? Everything else has failed. Elder Zix floated forward. Her light body pulsed with thought. If we let you try, and you fail, the beast might become even more dangerous. If we do nothing, it will keep destroying worlds anyway, Jake pointed out. At least this way, we might learn something new. The debate went on for hours. Some aliens thought the humans were crazy. Others thought they might be onto something. In the end, they voted. The humans could try. Captain Morrison left the meeting with a heavy heart. He knew most of the aliens thought he was going to die. Maybe they were right. But something deep inside told him they had to try a different way. Back on his ship, Jake called his crew together. He told them about the mission. "Sir," said Lieutenant Amy Carter, "do we really think we can succeed where everyone else failed?" Jake looked out the window at the stars. "I do not know, Amy, but I think we have something the others do not have." "What is that, sir?" Jake smiled. "We know how to make friends with things that scare us." 3 days later, the human ship Dawn's Edge left Nexus Station. They were heading for Zephyria Prime, where the Warbeast waited. The aliens watched them go with mixed feelings. Some hoped the humans would win. Others just hoped they would not. Make things worse, Jake stood on the bridge of his ship and looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there was a creature that had defeated the greatest powers in the galaxy. Soon, he would meet it face to face. The adventure was about to begin. 3 weeks later, Captain Morrison's ship came out of hyperspace near Zephyria Prime. The crew worked quietly on the bridge. Everyone felt nervous about what they might find. "I can see the target on our screens," said Lieutenant Amy Carter. She sat at her control station, watching the computer displays. "The creature is moving through the rocks between planets. It is about 40 kilometers from the main mining station." Jake studied the information on his screen. The Warbeast was not just wandering around like a lost animal. It seemed to be following a pattern. It was taking apart the mining equipment piece by piece, like it knew exactly what it was doing. "Sir," Amy said, "there is something else. I am picking up a weak signal from mining station Alpha. Someone might still be alive there." Jake made his choice quickly. He had come here to try something new. Maybe saving people was the right way to start. "Get a small ship ready," he told Amy. "Take us down to the station." The mining station looked terrible. The Warbeast had torn apart most of the buildings. Metal was twisted into strange shapes. But the emergency bunkers were built to survive almost anything. They were still in one piece. When Jake's team broke open the heavy doors, they found 17 people hiding. Inside, the people looked scared and tired. They had been hiding for months. Dr. Helen Brooks stepped forward to meet them. She was the station's scientist who studied alien life. Her clothes were dirty, and her face was thin from not eating enough. "Thank you for coming," she said. "We thought no one would find us." Jake looked around the small room. The people had done their best to stay alive, but it had been hard. Then he saw something that surprised him. A small boy sat quietly in the corner. He had light brown hair and blue eyes. He looked about 8 years old. What surprised Jake was how calm the boy seemed. Everyone else looked scared, but the boy just sat there like nothing was wrong. "This is my son, Danny," Dr. Brooks said. She put her hand on the boy's shoulder. "We were visiting the station when the attack started. The rescue ships could not come back for us." Danny looked up at Captain Morrison. His eyes seemed older than they should be for such a young boy. "The big creature is not mean," Danny said. His voice was quiet, but sure. It is just scared and angry, like my dog Max used to be during storms. The adults looked at each other with worried faces. Dr. Brooks quickly explained that her son had always been good with animals. But Jake found himself looking at the boy more carefully. There was something special in Danny's eyes. It was like he understood things that other people could not see. Danny has been having dreams. Dr. Brooks whispered to Jake about the creature. He says it is trying to talk to someone, but no one knows its language. Before Jake could ask more questions, loud alarms started ringing through the bunker. Through the thick windows, they could see the Warbeast coming closer. Its huge body moved smoothly through the broken pieces of the station. It knows we are here, Dr. Brooks said. Her voice was tight with fear, but Danny just walked over to the window. He put his small hand against the thick glass. "Hello," he whispered. Something impossible happened. The Warbeast stopped moving. For the first time since anyone had seen it, the creature stood perfectly still. Its huge head turned toward the bunker where Danny had his face pressed against the window. "That cannot be right," Dr. Brooks said, breathing hard. "Nothing stops it. Nothing even slows it down." Jake activated his radio to talk to his ship. "Amy, are you seeing this?" "Yes, Captain. The creature has stopped all movement. The energy readings are strange. It is like it is listening to something. We cannot hear." Danny turned around to face the adults. His young face was excited. "It is not trying to hurt us," he said. "It wants to go home, but it cannot remember where home is." The mining machines made too much noise and confused it. Jake knelt down next to the boy. "Danny, how can you know that?" "Same way I knew Max was afraid of thunder, even though he could not tell me," Danny said simply. "You just have to listen. With more than your ears." Through the window, the Warbeast began to make a low sound. The sound went through the walls of the station like music. It was not the scary roar that people heard before it attacked other worlds. This was different. This sounded almost like singing. Dr. Brooks pulled out her science scanner. She was curious, even though she was scared. The sound is very complicated. It is like it is trying to make a language our computers cannot understand. Danny nodded happily. It remembers music from its home. That is how its family talked to each other. But all the mining machines made so much noise that it got lost and angry. Jake felt a chill as he understood the mining work. It must have broken some kind of natural way the creatures talk to each other. The captain made a choice that scientists would argue about for many years. He turned on the bunker's outside speaker system and gave the microphone to Danny. "Can you try to talk to it?" he asked. Danny took the microphone like it was a very important job. Instead of talking right away, he listened to the sounds the Warbeast was making. His young face was serious as he concentrated. Then something amazing happened. Danny began to hum. A song that came out of the bunker's speakers was unlike anything any human had ever made. It was a complicated mix of sounds that seemed to make the air around them vibrate. It was like Danny had learned to speak in sounds that normal people could not hear. Warbeast's response was immediate and powerful. Its glass-like skin began to glow with soft, pulsing light. It lowered its huge head toward the bunker in what could only be a friendly greeting. "Incredible," Dr. Brooks whispered. "The sound patterns are matching up. They are actually talking to each other." But Danny suddenly stopped humming and looked up at Jake with worried eyes. "Captain," it says, "there are more of them coming. Its family is looking for it, and they are very angry about the mining." Jake felt his blood turn cold. If one Warbeast had been impossible to stop, a whole family of them would destroy everything. "How much time do we have?" he asked. Danny listened to the creature's continued sounds for several long moments. 3 days. "But it says it can help. US if we trust it." Jake looked at the boy. then at the massive creature outside the window. Everything the galaxy had tried had failed. Maybe it was time to try trusting instead of fighting. "Tell it we want to try," Jake said. Danny smiled, began humming again. The conversation between boy and beast continued, and for the first time since the terror began, there was hope. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in history. Captain Morrison stood in front of all the alien leaders, but he was not really there. He was a hologram being sent from his ship. Danny stood next to him, looking. Very small, but not scared. Outside Jake's ship, the Warbeast floated peacefully in space. Danny had started calling it Echo because of the way it repeated sounds back to him. "You are telling us that you made contact with the creature through a human child?" Elder Zix asked. Her ghost-like form flickered with doubt. "This goes against everything we know about how different species talk to each other." "With respect, Elder," Jake replied, "human children often talk in ways that adults find hard to understand." Maybe that was exactly what we needed here. The debate was cut short by alarm sounds throughout Nexus Station. On the main screen, 4 huge shapes came out of hyperspace. They were warbeasts even bigger than Echo. Their glass-like skin pulsed. "With angry red light, the family," Danny said quietly. "They are really mad about what happened to their home." Ambassador Kethvar's 4 arms were shaking again. "How do we fight 4 of them when we could not stop one?" "We do not fight," Jake said firmly. "Danny, can you explain to Echo what we need to do?" The boy nodded and began his impossible humming again. The sounds that came out were different this time. They were more complicated, with urgent notes that seemed to carry feelings beyond just sound. Echo responded immediately. Its own sounds joined with Danny's in a duet that connected 2 very different species. The other warbeasts slowed down as they approached, but their angry red color stayed the same. "What are they saying?" Dr. Brooks asked her son. Danny listened carefully for several minutes before answering. "Echo is explaining that we are trying to help, but the family does not trust us yet. They say too many species have hurt them." Jake made another command decision that would change how species met each other for years to come. "Ask them what they need from us." The talk that followed took nearly an hour. Danny worked as a translator between the warbeasts and all the alien leaders. Slowly, they learned about a species that had once lived peacefully across many different dimensions. They used natural crystal formations as both homes and ways to talk to each other across vast distances. The mining work on Zephyria Prime had not just destroyed their colony. It had cut the dimensional pathways the warbeasts used to travel between worlds. Echo and its family were basically refugees, cut off from their real civilization and unable to find their way home. "They do not want to fight," Danny explained. "They just want to go back to their real home." But the mining broke their road. Dr. Brooks looked at her scanner readings. The crystal formations were not just rocks. They were some kind of dimensional anchor system. The warbeasts must use them like we use hyperspace beacons. Elder Zix spoke with new respect in her musical voice. "If we could fix their navigation network, they would leave peacefully?" Danny talked with Echo again before nodding. "But they want promises. No more mining their special crystals anywhere, and safe paths through all our space." The negotiation took 3 more days, but the result was the most important treaty in galactic history. In exchange for safe passage and protection of their dimensional anchor crystals, the warbeasts would share their advanced knowledge of interdimensional travel and energy manipulation. But the most remarkable moment came when the largest of the Yade family group approached Jake's ship. Danny was allowed to actually touch its crystal surface. "It says thank you," Danny reported. His small hand glowed with reflected light from the creature's hide. "And it wants to know if all human children are as smart as me." Jake smiled as he realized that humanity had just become the first species in galactic history to make peaceful friends with the warbeasts. And it had all happened through the wisdom of an 8-year-old boy who understood that sometimes the most frightening creatures just needed someone to listen. The treaty signing was broadcast to every world in known space. Representatives from hundreds of species watched as the warbeasts and the Galactic Council agreed to peace. But the most important moment was when Danny, speaking in his strange harmonic language, delivered a message that the universal translators put into every known language. "There are no monsters in the universe," he said. "Only friends we have not learned to understand yet." Echo's response was equally important. For the first time, its words were translated for everyone to hear. "The small singer has taught us that courage comes in many forms. Sometimes the bravest thing is not to fight, but to reach out your hand in friendship." The other war beasts began to change color. The angry red faded away, replaced by soft blues and greens that pulsed in rhythm with their harmonic sounds. They were no longer the terror of the galaxy. They were the newest members of galactic civilization. Jake watched Danny talking with Echo through the ship's window. The boy was teaching the massive creature simple human words, while Echo was teaching Danny more complex harmonic patterns. It was the beginning of a friendship that would change everything. "Captain," Amy Carter said from her station, "we are receiving messages from all over the galaxy. Every species wants to know how we did it." Jake smiled. "Tell them the secret was never about having the biggest weapons or the smartest computers. The secret was having someone brave enough to say hello." Dr. Brooks joined Jake at the observation window. The harmonic resonance between Danny and the warbeasts continues to grow stronger. It is like they are teaching each other new ways to communicate that go beyond normal language. As they watched, Danny began humming softly. Echo joined in with its deeper harmonics, and then the other warbeasts throughout the system added their voices. The sound that resulted was incredibly beautiful. It was a symphony of understanding that connected not just species, but completely different ways of existing in the universe. "The Council wants to set up similar stations throughout known space," Jake told Dr. Brooks. "They are calling it the Danny Protocol. They want to use human children as first contact specialists for species we cannot otherwise communicate with." "Other children?" Danny asked, his eyes lighting up with excitement. "That would be so cool. I could teach them how to listen to the different songs." Jake realized that this was just the beginning. Danny had shown that communication was about more than words. It was about listening with your heart and responding with kindness. And that lesson would spread throughout the galaxy, one child at a time. The warbeasts had been impossible to tame, but Danny had realized they did not need to be tamed at all. They just needed to be understood. 2 weeks after the first treaty was signed, everything changed again. Danny was teaching Echo new human words when the alarms went off. This time, they were not warning about 4 warbeasts. The sensors showed dozens of them coming out of hyperspace. "Captain," Amy Carter said from her station, her voice tight with worry, "I count 37 contacts. All of them are larger than any warbeast we have seen before." Jake felt his stomach drop. The family group they had made peace with looked small compared to these new arrivals. These creatures were massive, some of them bigger than space stations. "Danny," Jake said carefully, "can you ask Echo what is happening?" The boy was already humming, his face serious with concentration. Echo's response came quickly, and Danny's expression grew worried. "Echo says these are the elders," Danny explained. "They are the oldest and strongest of the warbeast people. They came because they felt the family's distress calls from months ago." On the main screen, the massive warbeasts moved in perfect formation. Their crystal skin pulsed with colors that shifted from deep purple to bright gold. Even Echo seemed nervous, making small, uncertain sounds. "What do they want?" Dr. Brooks asked her son. Danny listened to Echo's increasingly urgent harmonics. They want to know who hurt their family. They are very angry. Echo is trying to explain about the peace treaty, but they do not believe it yet. The lead Elder Warbeast was truly enormous. It dwarfed even the largest ships in the area. When it began to emit its harmonic call, every piece of equipment on every ship started vibrating. The sound is affecting our systems, Amy reported. If they decide to attack, our weapons will not even scratch them. Jake made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. Open a communication channel to the entire fleet. All ships, all species. Sir? Amy asked. I want everyone to hear this, Jake said. He turned to Danny. Can you try to talk to the elders directly? Danny looked nervous for the first time since they had arrived at Zephyria Prime. They are really old, Captain. Their song is much deeper than Echo's. I am not sure I can understand it. Try, Jake said gently. We trust you. Danny took a deep breath and began to hum. But this time, his song was different. It started with the simple patterns he had learned from Echo, but then it grew more complex. He was trying to reach across not just language barriers, but across thousands of years of experience. The response from the Elder Warbeasts was immediate and overwhelming. Their harmonic call filled space itself, creating vibrations that could be felt in the bones of every living creature in the system. They are scanning us, Dr. Brooks said, looking at her instruments, but not with machines. They are reading our minds, our intentions. Danny's humming became more urgent. He was trying to project feelings of peace and friendship, but the elders' song was so powerful that it was hard for him to be heard. Suddenly, Echo moved between Danny's ship and the approaching elders. The smaller Warbeast began its own harmonic call, one that seemed to be defending the humans. Echo is vouching for us, Danny said, his voice strained from the effort of maintaining his song. It is telling them about the treaty, about how we helped find their family. The largest Elder Warbeast moved closer. Its massive head turned toward the tiny human ship, and Danny could feel its ancient mind touching his own. The experience was overwhelming. He saw images of Warbeast civilization spanning millions of years, of crystal cities that existed in multiple dimensions, of a people who had lived in harmony with the universe itself. But he also saw their pain. The mining operations had not just destroyed their colony on Zephyria Prime. They had damaged something fundamental to Warbeast existence. The crystal networks were not just communication systems. They were the nervous system of their entire civilization. They are dying, Danny whispered, tears streaming down his face. The broken crystal networks are killing them slowly. That is why they are so angry. Jake felt a chill of understanding. The mining operations across the galaxy. How many crystal networks have been destroyed? Danny listened to the Elder's song, his young face growing pale. Hundreds, maybe thousands. The Warbeast people are being cut off from each other, one world at a time. The implication was staggering. The galactic mining industry had unknowingly been committing genocide against an entire species. What can we do? Jake asked. Danny continued his conversation with the Elder Warbeast, his harmonic patterns growing more sophisticated as he learned to communicate with the ancient being. They want to know if the promise is real, Danny said finally. If all the species will really stop mining their crystals and help rebuild the networks. Jake activated the fleet-wide communication system. This is Captain Morrison, to all ships and all species representatives. You have heard what the child has told us. The question now is simple. Are we willing to change our ways to save a dying people? The response came from across the galaxy. One by one, species representatives began to speak. The Altanians pledged to convert their mining operations to help rebuild crystal networks. The Quantum Conclave offered their reality manipulation technology to restore damaged dimensional pathways. Even the mysterious architects emerged from their hiding places to offer assistance. But it was Ambassador Kethvar who spoke the words. That sealed the new alliance. We have spent so long fearing the Warbeasts, he said, his forearm steady for the first time in months. We never stopped to think that they might be fearing us too. If we can save them, perhaps we can save ourselves. From our own ignorance. Danny transmitted this flood of promises to the elder Warbeasts through his increasingly complex harmonic language. The ancient beings listened, their massive forms pulsing with colors that slowly shifted from angry reds to cautious yellows. The largest, Elder, moved even closer to Jake's ship. When it spoke, its harmonic call was so deep and powerful that it seemed to come from the fabric of space itself. It says, Danny translated, his voice filled with wonder, that the small singer has shown them something they had forgotten, that wisdom sometimes comes in the smallest packages. The elder Warbeast extended one of its crystal appendages toward the ship. Danny, without hesitation, pressed his hand against the window. The contact created a burst of light that illuminated the entire system. It wants to share something with all of us, Danny said. A gift to show that the Warbeast people choose trust over fear. What happened next would be recorded in every history book across the galaxy. The elder Warbeast began to sing, and its song was joined by every other Warbeast in the system. But this was not just music. As the harmonics reached their peak, space itself began to shimmer. New crystal formations began to appear throughout the system, growing from nothing into vast, beautiful structures that pulsed with interdimensional energy. The elder Warbeasts were not just rebuilding their network. They were expanding it to include the other species. They are giving us access to their dimensional highways, Dr. Brooks said in amazement. This technology could revolutionize space travel for everyone. Jake watched as the crystal network spread across the system like a web of living light. Each node pulsed with harmonic energy that seemed to sing with its own voice. Danny, he said, ask them why they are doing this. The boy listened to the elder's response and smiled. They say that the small singer taught them that sharing makes everyone stronger. The crystal networks work better when more voices join the song. As the ceremony concluded, Jake realized that humanity had done more than prevent a war. They had helped heal a civilization and been welcomed into something beautiful beyond imagination. The Warbeasts had not been conquered or tamed. They had been understood, and in return, they had chosen to share their greatest treasures with those brave enough to listen to their song. 1 year later, the galaxy was a completely different place. Danny Brooks, now 9 years old, stood in the central chamber of Harmony Station. The station was built using both human engineering and Warbeast technology. It existed partially in normal space and partially in the dimensional realm the Warbeasts called home. The station orbited Zephyria Prime, but the planet looked nothing like it had before. Where there had once been ugly mining scars, beautiful crystal gardens now grew. The gardens sang with harmonic energy that could be heard across multiple dimensions. The translation system is working perfectly, Dr. Brooks told Admiral Morrison. Jake had been promoted after the success of the Warbeast mission. He now led the new Interspecies Communication Division. Danny's harmonic patterns have been built into our universal translators, she continued. We can now talk to 17 species that we could never understand before. Through the station's clear walls, they could see Echo and its family working with human and alien engineers. They were restoring crystal networks throughout the system. What had once been mining equipment was now being turned into a vast communication array that would help all species. Admiral, Lieutenant Carter called from her new job as Station Operations Officer. We have a priority message from the Galactic Council. They want to talk about expanding the Harmony Project to 12 more. Sectors. Jake nodded, but his attention was on Danny. The boy sat cross-legged in the station's main room, surrounded by holographic displays showing harmonic patterns from across known space. Danny had become something unique in galactic society. He was a bridge between species that had never been able to understand each other. "Danny," Jake called softly, "how are our friends doing?" Danny looked up with a smile that was still completely human, despite everything he had learned to do. "They are happy, Admiral, really happy. Echo says its family can finally hear the songs from home again." As if it knew they were talking about it, Echo's massive form appeared outside the station's viewing window. The Warbeast had grown even more beautiful over the months. Its crystal skin now showed complex patterns of light that served as a form of art. Danny walked to the window and put his hand against it in their usual greeting. Echo responded by creating a light pattern that spelled out, "Thank you," in 17 different galactic languages at the same time. "You know what the best part is?" Danny said to Jake. "Echo told me that there are lots more species out there. That just needs someone to understand their songs. The galaxy is way bigger and more interesting than we thought." Dr. Brooks joined them at the window. Her scanner showed readings that still amazed scientists everywhere. The harmonic connection between Danny and the Warbeasts continues to grow stronger. It is like they are teaching each other new ways to communicate that go beyond normal language. Jake watched as Danny began humming softly. His melody was joined by Echo's deeper harmonics, and then by the other Warbeasts throughout the system. The sound that resulted was incredibly beautiful. It was a symphony of understanding that connected not just species, but completely different ways of existing in the universe. The Council wants to build similar harmony stations throughout known space, Jake told Dr. Brooks. They are calling it the Danny Protocol. They want to use human children as first contact specialists for species we cannot otherwise communicate with. "Other children?" Danny asked, his eyes lighting up with excitement. "That would be so cool. I could teach them how to listen to the different songs." As they spoke, sensors indicated the arrival of new ships. These were not warships, but peaceful vessels carrying the first official Warbeast diplomatic mission to the greater galaxy. Echo's family had volunteered to serve as ambassadors, sharing their knowledge with species that had once feared them. The ceremony that followed was broadcast throughout galactic space. Representatives from hundreds of species watched as Danny Brooks, the human child who had whispered peace to the untamable Warbeast, officially welcomed Echo's family as the newest members of the Galactic Council. But perhaps the most important moment came when Danny, speaking in harmonics that no adult human could make, delivered a message that the universal translators put into every known galactic language. "There are no monsters in the universe," he said. "Only friends we have not learned to understand yet." Echo's response was equally powerful. "The small singer has taught us that courage comes in many forms. Sometimes the bravest act is not to fight, but to reach out your hand in friendship." As the ceremony ended and the various species began planning for a future of unprecedented cooperation, Jake realized something important. Humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization had not been their technology or their military strength. It had been the simple wisdom of a child who understood that communication was about more than words. It was about listening with your heart and responding with compassion. In the months that followed, more children joined Danny at Harmony Station. Each one brought their own special ability to understand and communicate with different species. There was Lisa, who could sense the electrical patterns of machine intelligences. There was Carlos, who understood the chemical languages of gas-based life forms. And there was May, who could interpret the mathematical songs of energy beings. Together, they formed the first class of the Harmony Academy. They learned not just how to translate languages, but how to bridge the gaps between completely different ways of thinking and existing. The Warbeast. Crystal networks grew to connect hundreds of star systems. The networks carried not just Warbeast communications, but messages from all species. Travel time between distant worlds was cut from weeks to days. Scientific discoveries were shared instantly across the galaxy. But perhaps most importantly, the fear that had once divided species began to fade. When you could truly understand another being's thoughts and feelings, it became much harder to hate or fear them. Danny, now recognized as the youngest ambassador in galactic history, continued to grow and learn. But he never lost the simple wisdom that had started it all. He still believed that every creature in the universe just wanted to be understood. On the first anniversary of the Warbeast Treaty, a special celebration was held at Harmony Station. Representatives from every known species came to honor the boy who had changed everything. But when they asked Danny to give a speech, he simply walked to the great viewing window and began to hum. His song was joined by echo, and then by every Warbeast in the system. But it did not stop there. Through the crystal networks, Warbeasts across the galaxy added their voices. Then other species began to join in, each in their own way. The Altanians clicked their rhythm. The Quantum Conclave added their ethereal tones. Even the mysterious architects contributed their reality-bending harmonics. For one perfect moment, the entire galaxy sang together in harmony. When the song ended, Danny turned to the assembled representatives with tears in his eyes. "This is what I always heard," he said simply. Everyone was singing. They just needed someone to help them find the same tune. Admiral Morrison watched from the back of the room, remembering the scared 8-year-old boy who had first whispered, "Hello," to the most feared creature in the galaxy. That boy had grown into something remarkable, but he had never lost his essential humanity. The ceremony concluded with the announcement of the next phase of the Harmony Project. Stations would be built in 12 new sectors, each staffed with children who had learned Danny's methods. The galaxy would finally become the peaceful, cooperative place that visionary leaders had always dreamed of. But for Danny, the real reward came later that evening, when he sat quietly with Echo in the station's garden. The massive Warbeast had learned to make itself smaller so it could fit in the space designed for humanoid species. They sat together, boy and beast, sharing the comfortable silence of true friends. "Echo," Danny said softly, "do you think we did good?" The Warbeast's response came not in harmonics, but in words it had learned from Danny. Its voice was deep and musical, but unmistakably filled with affection. "We did very good, small singer," Echo replied. "We turned fear into friendship. We turned silence into song. Most importantly, we showed the galaxy that understanding is always possible when someone is brave enough to listen." Danny smiled and leaned against his enormous friend. Outside the garden, the crystal networks pulsed with the conversations of 1 billion different voices, all connected by the simple truth that Danny had discovered. No one could tame the Warbeast because the Warbeast did not need to be tamed. It just needed to be heard. And in learning to listen to the Warbeast song, the galaxy had learned to listen to itself. The age of fear and misunderstanding was over. The age of harmony had begun. In the end, it had not taken great weapons or advanced technology to change the galaxy. It had taken a child who understood that the most powerful force in the universe was not fear or anger, but the simple desire to connect with another living being. The Warbeasts still roamed free among the stars, but now they were no longer alone. They sang their ancient songs across the crystal networks, and for the first time in millions of years, the universe sang back. And at Harmony Station, a boy named Danny Brooks continued to listen to the songs of the galaxy, teaching others to hear the music that had always been there, waiting for someone brave.